Hello everyone, my name is Madalina, and today I will speak about psychology of user experience in decentralized exchanges. This might be interesting for people who are concerned with greater user adoption and user retention in DeFi, but this is going to be a different take. We won't be talking about accessibility or metrics, but more about usability and cognitive biases applied in decentralized exchanges. I would like to introduce myself. My background is in computer science, but I specialized in human-computer interaction. I have worked as a software engineer for trading and portfolio management applications for more than 4 years, but in traditional finance. And then I have shifted towards a more decentralized scope. Since last year, I started contributing to a decentralized application, a trading console. All the code is open source. This dApp runs on the Vega blockchain, which is a blockchain built specifically for derivatives, which allows for permissionless market creation. Okay, now I would like to start with a question that, in my experience, has driven everything that I have worked on so far, which is, what do people want from a trading UI? And based on my own experience implementing user feedback, the answer would be everything. A person trading just wants a UI that is intuitive, user-friendly, and efficient. They just need speed and responsiveness to make quick decisions, take advantage of market opportunities, but also it needs to slow them down to safely complete all the confirmation steps. They need all the data at their fingertips, and they need it now, but they would not be interested in everything, so it shouldn't overload them with too much information. For more complex exchanges, it needs to be customizable. If a user feels efficient with their own layouts, they should be able to create them. But there shouldn't be an empty canvas. How do they know how to use the exchange if it does not have an appealing layout by default? And last but not least, they need to trust the process. It needs to be secure. But what if something goes wrong? What if they make a mistake? Where can they get some help and support? Good, but that is trading in general, regardless if the exchange is centralized or not. Today, we will be talking about decentralized exchanges. We need to make sure this is highlighting the key points for a broader audience. So today, we refer to DEXs as exchanges that operate on a blockchain, and here are some key features of the decentralized ones. They operate on a decentralized architecture where users have full control over their private keys, which are used to access and manage their funds. This means they are non-custodial, meaning that funds are not held by the exchange, but the exchange facilitates trustless transactions, which are recorded on and verified on the blockchain, which promotes higher transparency and accountability in the trading process. They are typically open and permissionless, meaning that there is no need for KYC in order to participate in the trading process, which allows for greater inclusivity and accessibility in trading, and also privacy, as users do not need to disclose personal information during the trading process. However, everything is transparent. And last but not least, security. DEXs offer a higher level of, they prioritize security through features such as smart contract audits, multi-signature wallets. However, they are not immune to security risks, so users still need to exercise caution and follow good security practices. Cool. Now, having all of these in mind, how do we design for this? Before continuing, I need to make sure I'm making a very clear disclaimer. This presentation needs to be visual to make sense. So what I plan to do is a UX case study on multiple decentralized exchanges that are out there. Some used for swaps, some used for derivatives. But there is no intention to do any type of critique or advertising. Now, let's dive into the psychology of design and the cognitive biases and principles that may affect an exchange user experience. A very simple way for me to start talking about this would be to bring up a classic, which is the cognitive load theory. This is the theory which states that people have a limited amount of mental resources in order to available for processing the information. So a platform can be designed in a way that minimizes distractions or reduces complex features. However, things are never that simple. This actually contradicts Tesla's law, which reminds us that if you simplify too much, you may end up just transferring some complexity to the user. Now let's get a little bit technical, because we are trying to design something that is a bit specific. Let's talk about some key factors that can impact the trading experience and the cost of transaction processing indexes. So the first one is liquidity. Users may experience wider bid-ask spreads and slippage when trading if there is lower liquidity. And that is why DEXs implement different liquidity mechanisms which allow users to provide liquidity to the platform and earn some fees in exchange, meaning that it impacts the fee structure on DEXs, same as the order books or any other types of models such as AMMs, which have a direct impact on the pricing and the execution of trades. You may say that DEXs offer a higher level of security now that users are in full control over their private keys, assets are not held in a centralized location, but they are now responsible for managing their own security. Now, keeping those 4 important factors in mind, let's try to simplify and break down the user journey in a decentralized exchange. Because any user interacting with a DEX will filter and gather the information to connect their wallet and start trading, and then seek the meaning of what's in front of them so that they can start trading safely or provide liquidity. And then they need to act within a given time in order to place the most profitable orders to assess if they can minimize slippage and generally follow their own trading strategy. And they need to store bits of this interaction in their memory related to their funds and realized profit and loss. So to improve their user experience, we need to understand the biases and heuristics affecting these 4 decision cycle steps. Now let's dive in. We're going to start with some laws that are repeatedly applied in popular decentralized exchanges for the aforementioned 4 categories. Category number 1, information. Users filter out a lot of the information that they receive, even when it could be important. I will start with the most popular law, which is very simple to understand and practice. If the number of choices increases, then the time to make a decision increases as well. And a very nice example of this law are lists. To apply this law to DEXs, designers simplified the UI in order to minimize the number of clicks required to select a token to swap. And here you have some popular examples of decentralized exchanges methods to select a token. You do have a scrollable model to find and select your token, but designers made it even easier by narrowing down that list with a search filter. These UIs from this slide, they do look very similar, right? Why is that? Well, that is because users will transfer expectations they have built around one familiar product to another one that appears similar, and that is called the Jacob's Law. Another example for the same law is actually this GIF, where we have examples of more than 9 popular swapping DEXs, and you can see how they are following very similar patterns for their UIs. What happens is that designers leverage existing mental models so that users can focus on their tasks rather than on learning new processes. And this is very common, and you can see this being applied in general on any sort of UIs. So apart from limiting the user's need to learn new models, designers are also looking at breaking down complex information, and they are disclosing it sequentially at the moment the users need it most. And this leads us to a design pattern that sequences information and actions across several views, which is called progressive disclosure. The purpose is to lower the chances that users will feel overwhelmed by what they encounter. So by disclosing information progressively, interaction designers are trying to reveal only the essentials and help users to manage the complexity of what they see. And here you have this example where a user finds out information regarding the price impact, and then about the fees, and then about the route used for optimization, only by interacting with the UI. It is important to know that designers need to choose very well what to disclose first and in what order. Why? Because people rely too heavily on the first piece of information they receive when they are making decisions. And this is called the anchoring bias. In DEXs, a platform can be designed in a way that discloses everything in a perfect sequence for the trading process. However, one thing that actually gives the user the motivation to look for more would be the confirmation bias, as people are more likely to believe information that confirms their existing beliefs or expectations. And if they don't find it, they might look for it. In DEXs, this law can be applied by designing the platform in such a way that enables users to double-check, or that reinforces traders' confidence in their trades. You may say by providing clear and accurate market data or offering risk management tools. And this actually leads us to another concept, which is helping users find the meaning. Users need to seek the meaning of what's in front of them, to analyze market data so that they can start trading safely, manage risk, and if they want to, provide liquidity. And I'll start talking about processing the information. When people are presented with complex shapes or a set of ambiguous elements, their brains choose to interpret them in the easiest manner possible. And this law can be applied by designing the platform in a way that presents information and data in a very clear and concise manner, making it easier for users to understand and process this information. Here on this slide, we have an example of the creation of a new balancer liquidity pool. The UI needs to help the user's cognitive load and working memory, because the human brain can only hold a limited amount of information at once. How much? Well, it could be limited. It could be around 7 ± 2 chunks of information. And this is an older UI of Uniswap, but it exemplifies very well this concept, where it was breaking down complex information, such as liquidity pool details, into smaller, more manageable chunks that are easier for users to understand and process. And of course, the user needs to pay attention to this type of details in order to manage the risk of impermanent loss. Now, we will move to another concept which also falls in the meaning category, and it is also related to managing the risk of your own portfolio, which is called the scarcity principle. In DEXs, this law is applied by creating a sense of urgency or scarcity around certain trades or certain assets. For example, in Vegas Trading Console, the UI highlights the fact that you are running out of collateral, coloring the amount in red or orange if you may soon not be able to cover the margin on positions. Now, having that knowledge, you can act in time in order to manage effectively your collateral. You can either adjust your positions or deposit more. And this actually leads me to acting in time. Users need to act within a given time in order to trade effectively and to avoid losses. There is this bias which states that people are more strongly motivated by the fear of loss than the prospect of gain, and this is called loss aversion. Interaction designers are looking at implementing different tools for risk management and loss prevention, such as by providing clear warnings when traders are at risk of making a loss, or allowing them to adjust parameters for their orders. And on this slide, I have chosen a very simple swap example, where a user could adjust the slippage and get a warning that the transaction can be front-run. What is interesting is that users tend to remember their interaction with the UI and store it in their memory. And of course, this leads me to memory. Users store bits of the interaction in their memory. Usually, they would remember the interaction related to the realized profit and loss or related to managing their funds. There is this effect, commonly applied in multiple UIs, which is called the Zeigarnik effect. People remember unfinished or interrupted tasks better than completed tasks. And to apply this law to DEXs, designers can use visual cues such as progress bars or status indicators in order to keep the users engaged until the transaction is complete. Here, you have an example of submitting an order on the Vega blockchain, and the UI tries to keep the user engaged, giving them also cues that they need to accept that transaction and approve that transaction in their wallet. Staying on the same effect, here I have another example of awaiting confirmation on making deposits while bridging with Ethereum. With this law right here, I'm trying to finish the section where I'm presenting these laws that I have seen being repeatedly applied in DEXs. And I would like to mention some laws that I would have my eyes on in the future. However, could these laws be applied in a correct and ethical way? So there are going to be three. The first one, self-determination theory. People are more motivated and engaged when they feel a sense of community and relatedness. A platform could create a sense of community and connection through social features or other interactive elements. And this is a very interesting one, as it influences user retention on any platform. So for a user, the emotional cost of a switch would be higher if the user would already feel part of a community. Another one would be the expectancy theory. People are more motivated by the expectation of a desired outcome, and the platform could actually emphasize the potential benefits of trading, such as highlighting successful trades or providing information on past performance. Another one would be the pick and roll. A platform could be designed in a way that actually provides a very strong positive peak and end to the overall trading experience. Look, These are some laws that could lead to increased user retention, but to what cost? Could they be applied in a correct and ethical way? Could we harness these rules for good? Now, I would like to leave that open question and come back to some features that would make you realize you're on a decentralized exchange. And I'm going to show some features, and this is how we've been trying to do it on the Vega console app, but that could be applied to other decentralized exchanges as well. First would be managing multiple keys. You may be able to trade on many keys, manage multiple accounts, and only you would be managing all of them. So don't forget, all the keys are yours and all the funds are just yours. So it is safe only if you keep them safe. Secondly, trying to make sure you're using a transparent, decentralized exchange, viewing as any public key. Remember, as a DEX user, you are on a blockchain and everything is transparent. You just need to know someone's public key and all the information is out there for you to check. And since everything is visible on the chain, then the UI could actually help you visualize that too. To conclude, there are lots of concepts out there that we could actually cover in this talk, but I would like to highlight the impact of the concepts that are described today and what they represent. At the end of the day, we don't want to encourage inexperienced users to try DEXs or do any sort of trading. That should never be the goal when we say greater adoption in DeFi. What we want to do with a better user experience and empathy is to empower users to achieve their existing goals, make their life easier by giving them an accessible way to use the valuable features of decentralization. So we want to find both usability and usefulness in DeFi, and we can improve usability by understanding the biases and heuristics that influence these decision cycle steps, which are allowing users to filter information, seek the meaning, act in time, and remember bits of the interaction. And I believe that by applying these laws in a correct and ethical way with empathy, we can lead to increased user adoption, retention, and satisfaction in DeFi. Thank you very much for listening to me. There is a QR with the slides and with the sources attached. If you'd like to dive deep into these concepts, there is also a link to the open source front end of the Vega dApps as well. Feel free to contact me anytime, ask me any questions, and I'll be around for the rest of the conference. More than happy to discuss anything related to DEXs and psychology of UX.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.